Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look back at the Grade 1 Jaipur Stakes on Belmont Stakes Saturday. This race is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint to be contested this fall at Del Mar. This race at 6 furlongs over a good inner turf. And as we break from the gate, keep an eye on the speed in this race. That's going to be the number 6, Bound for Nowhere. Bet down to even money, broke a lot better this time than he did at Keeneland in his Shakertown victory over the spring.
Yeah, he didn't break well at Keeneland last time. He did break running this time, Dan. He goes to the front, but surprisingly enough, Dan, even though he's pretty intent on the lead and is showing speed here, the two horses to his outside are not going to turn him loose in here. They're going to make him race every step of the way. Down at the end here, the final 16th of a mile or so, it really takes its toll on Bound for Nowhere.
Watch the horse in the pink silks in the back of the pack. That is the number 2, Casa Creed. Casa Creed, always a good middle distance horse, cut back to a sprint in his priors prepped for the Jaipur, the elusive quality at 7. He won that race. We wondered if 6 was too sharp. Given this pace scenario, it wasn't sharp at all.
He did have a nice competitive pace in front of him here, Dan, but he's still got a lot of work to do here from the 3/16 pole. Look at this horse kick in the final 1/8 of a mile. He's going to come running and just go right over the top of this field. This is a very impressive win for this horse. He did get a very good trip and a nice setup, but he was also much the best.
Career best 105 Beyer speed figure for Casa Creed, turning back to 6 furlongs and outfinishing his stablemate Chewing Gum, who came from even farther back. Considering that the horses that pressed Bound for Nowhere early, Gregorian Chant, a 5-1 chance, that horse finished 7th. Sambaye, a 7-1 chance, that horse finished 9th. You got to think Bound for Nowhere ran a pretty good race up front.
He did run very well in here. He just took too much pressure on the lead, and he couldn't withstand it at the end. Just held on for third over Stubbins. He ran fine in this race, Dan. He's a really nice horse. We'll see where he turns up next because he doesn't run very often. So we'll see if Wesley Ward gives him more time or if he's going to bring him back relatively soon.
As for Stubbins, he's been an unlucky horse for most of his career, and this was a tough spot for his first race off of a September layoff. All things considered, he ran fine, and if he stays healthy, I can see this horse making noise in the division later this year.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. This was his first start of the year off of a layoff since last September, so he has that going for him as far as excuses go. I mean, overall, you can't really complain with the trip he got, Dan. He got a very good one. He was clear in the stretch ahead of the 1-2 finishers. He just really couldn't kick with them, couldn't get up for third over the tired pace setter. He ran fine. He'll have to do better than that down the line.
The popular mare Got Stormy really never fired in this race at 8-1, sort of a one-paced performance for her. The connections have options. They could stretch her back out. They probably should run her with fillies with a little drop in class.
Yeah, that's probably true. And we'll see what they decide to do with her. She's clearly lost a step. No excuses for her in here. Got a very good trip, did not have a strong finish, and was never a real threat.
Fast Boat was coming into this race in very sharp form off a couple of rallying victories, but the kick just wasn't there in the Jaipur.
Yeah, it wasn't as good race, that's for sure. You're right. He's another horse who got a perfectly good trip in this race. He was right alongside the winner as they came into the stretch there. He just could not kick with Casa Creed.
Gregorian Chant came into this race for trainer Phil D'Amato of 3 consecutive wins sprinting. He pushed Bound for Nowhere through those fast fractions, and he just could not keep up. He was cooked. It looks like back to Southern California against weaker competition.
I mean, I guess it does. Of anybody, Dan, and there are very few horses in here I'd want to, be making excuses for. I'd be willing to give Gregorian Chant a chance wherever he turns up next. I mean, I think the most surprising thing about this race was the fact that maybe not that Bound for Nowhere got pressed on the lead, but that he got pressed on the lead by Gregorian Chant, who's 3 wins sprinting. All 3 times he came from last, sweeping around those fields and finishing very strongly. It was very surprising to see him using his speed in this race.
Let's take a look at Casa Creed's horse card. He wins for the 5th time in his career. He is a son of Jimmy Creed. He's now a Grade 1 stakes winner. I talked to Belmont in the winner's circle after the Jaipur. This, of course, being a Breeders' Cup win in your in race. The problem could be for Mott that the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint at Del Mar is at 5/8 of a mile. And while Casa Creed has turned back successfully to 7 and to 6, 5 might be a completely different ball game. I wonder if we'll see him at 5.5 at least at Saratoga.
I would think that they'd have to be tempted to try him in one of those Saratoga sprint races and just see how he handles even shorter distances, Dan. I mean, the good thing for his connections, Casa Creed's connections, is he's a pretty good miler too. So they could just go in a mile race for him and then just see what happens come Breeders' Cup Day. But yeah, they're in a little bit of a tough spot because he's a little bit of a tweener.
Taking a look at the prices for the Jaipur, and there were some big ones. 23.60 to win for Casa Creed. Chewing Gum is a horse, Mike. All his turf sprint races look good on paper. I think there was really a question coming into this race from a class perspective. How would he class up against some of these horses? Given this pace scenario, he ran just fine, but I wonder if it was solely due to the pace scenario.
Probably was a little circumstantial, Dan. I mean, he was still last coming through the upper stretch there. He did get out to the clear and put in a pretty nice run to get up for second, but it's not like there was ever a point when you thought Chewing Gum was really going to be a factor on the win end in here. To me, he just, sort of came with a late run and just got up for second without really factoring.
Casa Creed pays 23.60, leads home a Belmont Exacta in the Grade 1 Jaipur at Belmont on Belmont Stakes Saturday. It's a win and you're in the Jaipur for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint.